Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Supply Chain. So, as always, I'm going to kick things off with a question. Today's guest works for Tecsys, a global provider of supply chain solutions. So, what percentage of the Gartner healthcare supply chain top 25 for 2024 are Tecsys customers? What do you think? Well, let me know your guesses over on social and keep listening because all will be revealed at the end of the show. So today I'm excited to welcome an industry trailblazer to our Woman in Supply Chain series. She wants to inspire others, especially women, to embrace opportunities, take risks, and lean into their growth. Who is she? Well, it's Nermine Saad. Nermine is a seasoned supply chain leader with nearly 20 years of experience in logistics, operations, demand planning, and software implementation. Today, we're going to be talking all about her career journey, fostering a culture of learning, what she learned from moving all the way from Egypt to Canada, and what the future of digital transformation really looks like. But of course, we could not have this show without our sponsors. So the Woman in Supply Chain Forum was created by Marina and Jason to foster real connections, bringing men and women together to network, learn, and build lasting bonds beyond traditional conferences. It's about strengthening pipelines, creating a community of advocates, mentors, and trusted peers. Similarly, the Woman in Supply Chain Award was born from a need to recognize female leaders navigating challenges and driving change. Since its inception 5 years ago, it has grown to nearly 400 submissions, celebrating the achievements of women shaping the future of supply chain. Find out more at sdcexec.com. So now it's time to welcome our guest. So welcome, Nermine.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me in your podcast, Let's Talk Supply Chain. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity and to share with my journey with you.
Yes. Now I'm so excited that you're here. You're another one of our amazing Women in Supply Chain award winners. And so I'm really looking forward to talking to you today. I mean, this group of women have been fascinating. I've loved all of my conversations. They're always inspiring, informative, humbling. So I can't wait to find out more about you. Now, you have a degree in international transport and logistics management, which is amazing. And I always find so fascinating because that's not that common, right? Especially for people of our generation to have a degree directly related to the industry. So how did you decide this was the path for you?
Honestly, I was quite surprised the first time I heard the term logistics, and even more surprised when I learned that there is a bachelor degree in Egypt and it's globally accredited. At this point, we used to hear the major in economics, business management,
Right.
marketing, but never logistics. So this got me really curious, and I start searching, and then I discovered that the shipping container industry was introduced back in 1950, and I
Wow.
realized that there is an entire industry behind the movement of goods, and it involves shipping lines, airlines, ports, and much more. Um, and and then the more I read about it, the more I was fascinated. And then I understood that international transport and logistics, it's the heartbeat of the world. Basically, if it stops, everything else stops. So I decided to pursue this career, and I wanted something that is unique, at the same time connects strategy, people, and operations, and logistics brings all of this together.
Yeah, it really does. And people don't realize it, but once they get into the industry, it kind of like sucks you in and
Yeah.
you never end up leaving. And if you end up leaving, you most likely will come back, right?
Yeah.
And so after graduation, you worked for a couple of years in industry in Egypt. So what did that look like for you? I mean, as a young woman establishing a career in logistics in Egypt, and were there any big lessons that you learned from those early years?
It was definitely a very rough experience. The industry was very male dominant. And I remember early in my career, I used to work in cargo operations at the airport, and I used to take night shifts.
Ooh,
And I used to be the only woman
wow.
at night. And this was actually adding a lot of pressure on me. But I'm very goal oriented and driven by results. So as a young professional, um, I quickly realized that I had to prove myself through consistency and results. And I know that I had the knowledge to get through this. One of the biggest lessons that I learned early in my career that credibility isn't built overnight. It comes with showing up,
Yeah.
doing the right work, delivering on time, and earning respect. Those early years taught me resilience and how to adapt to every situation. Um, I also learned that leadership isn't about it isn't about authority. So, and this really got stuck with me. That when you take the right decisions on the right time, that's when you earn respect. And that was really the mindset for me throughout my career.
Yeah, I love what you said around leadership, right? Because I think it's important that we all acknowledge our role in leadership. You said it's not necessarily about somebody's role and somebody being higher than you in the hierarchy. We
Yeah,
all have a role and responsibility, and we all have a little bit of leadership in our everyday lives, depending on the interaction, what that looks like. And we're also very responsible for ourselves and how we show up and how we conduct ourselves. And like you said, it's one small thing after
yeah,
another to build the credibility, to build the resilience, to build the respect. I don't think a lot of people these days quite realize that if you just put a little bit in every single day, it's going to make a difference. It's not that you have to go from 0 to 100, and sometimes we miss that fact because of, I think, social media a little bit too, right?
yeah. I always say you don't have to be the most knowledgeable or experienced person to make an impact. You just need to show up and stay consistent.
Yes, yes, I love that. So after that, you then moved to Canada, which I'm from. How did that opportunity come about? And what was your experience of making that move? Because we're talking about two very, very different countries.
Yes. So moving to Canada was both very exciting to me and terrifying at the same time. So my family already lived in Canada for a while. I just decided to join them and
Oh, okay.
immigrate in 2010. Um, and I had to start completely over. So I had to rebuild my career, my network, my friends, everything from scratch. So I landed in Quebec. So I started by learning French for a few months.
Uh-huh.
And then I started working in customer service. And a little bit after, I pursued my graduate studies in supply chain and operations management in McGill. So I was basically working from 8 to 5 and then go to school from 6 to 9. And
I
then
know that. Hmm.
that was it's part of my growth, right? And then I realized that I need the network in order to move to the next step in my career. So I joined Apex supply chain organization. And back then, there were national competitions for students. So we were a team of four young professional women that decided to take this opportunity, and we competed in the national competition, and we won. Then we went to the global one, and this opened up a huge network for me within
Wow.
within supply chain in Canada. Because I had great recognitions. I have to say, it was very exhausting at times, but incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
So this journey, the first few years in Canada taught me about determination and modesty. And moving to Canada gave me a whole new perspective on diversity.
Mm.
Seeing how people from different background can bring so much value in one team. I've only seen that in Canada, so
Huh. I
very,
love that.
very. special experience for me.
I love that. And congratulations on winning on a national level. And it was a team of women. I mean, that
Yeah,
makes it even more special and so cool. And I appreciate you for sharing that experience because it's not easy to move to a new country, especially Quebec, where they speak majority of French. And if you didn't know French, at least you took some courses and some classes to learn French so that you could be part of that culture. And I think that's kudos to you for thinking about what is it that I want my life to look like and what are the skills and the abilities that I need to not only push me to grow in a variety of different ways. And a lot of people don't know this about me, but I worked my, 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job. It wasn't really 8 hours. Sometimes it was till 6 o'clock. And then I went and did some courses at a local college as well. I was in Toronto, but a local college. And then I eventually started taking those courses online. And so they called it, I was taking courses by correspondence. That's what they called it before they called it online. And so I know what that's like. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. You're doing things 14 hours a day between work
yeah.
and school. And so kudos to you for doing that because it's not easy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, what was it like to rebuild your professional career? I mean, you talked about obviously McGill being a part of that and your studies, but also that national program and winning that award helped you with your network. But what did it take and what did it look like around rebuilding that career for you in Canada? Like, were there big similarities? Were there differences? What did that look like?
Um, so again, rebuilding my career in Canada was definitely challenging, but as I said, it turned out to be one of the most rewarding experiences. When you start over at a new country, you are already taking a big risk. But it's the extra step that you take outside of your comfort zone, what creates the opportunities for you.
Right.
So the biggest difference I saw in Canada is that there is so much emphasis placed on your soft skills
Mm,
in any supply chain role. So in Egypt, for example, I was working in the transport field and planning, scheduling, and the movement of goods, whether it's by sea, air, or road. In Canada, it's not just about your technical skills. It's about how you communicate, um, what style of leadership do you adapt in certain situations, how you collaborate with different teams from different backgrounds. And as I mentioned, I started from the ground. So I worked in customer service, moved
mm,
to production planning manager, and then demand planning and forecasting for retail, and then procurement and vendor performance in aerospace, and then supply chain software. Finally landed my career in supply chain software implementation. So, and each one of those roles helped me to understand how different businesses operate from every angle. And looking back, all of those experiences really shaped the person or the leader I am today. Someone that really values processes and the people behind it.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's great that you focused on the soft skills and the differences between the two and what you needed to do to show up. And I think that that is relevant whether you're moving from one country to another or even one company to another, right? Things look
That's true.
different. Different things are valued in different ways. And so there's a resiliency to that, but also a way to be flexible as to what you need to be and who you need to be in that environment and what skills that you need to succeed. So I love that you put it in that context. Now, whilst you were working, you pursued additional education. You also fostered a culture of learning at Tecsys. How important do you think ongoing education is?
I love that question. Because learning had been the driving force of my career. So I always believed that education doesn't stop the moment you earn your degree. It's just the beginning. And the supply chain world moves just so fast all the time. New methodologies, new operations, new challenges, new customer expectations. And the only way to stay ahead is to keep learning and adapting. And at Texas, I really try to foster this culture every day. It could be by coaching someone through their first client presentation, or have someone understand what is a technical document, or invite one of the more junior team members to a meeting and think and ask them, what would you have done differently?
Mhm.
I also love to put them in a challenging situation and see how they will adapt. So I can identify and know how can I coach them and the areas that we need to improve. Um, and as supply chain becomes more complex, the talent of the market shifts. So building a strong, more adaptable future leaders is important.
Mhm.
And I always encourage my team to stay curious, to keep learning, because a culture of learning naturally becomes a culture of leadership.
Yeah, and I want to put some emphasis on that key point that you talked about around helping to create the spaces where we can help an individual grow and adapt. So when we think about ongoing education, sometimes we think about school, or we think
Yeah,
about workshops, or we think about conferences, or we think about the traditional ways of learning. But I want to really ask, the senior leaders, the supply chain teams and professionals that are listening to this conversation, to help drive forward the fact that you are able to put together these safe spaces, right? To put your teams in different environments to really see how they will react and then make them a teaching moment. I mean, maybe if they reacted well, there's still a teaching component to that in the fact
yeah,
that there's always room for improvement and there's always things to do differently. And also, there's always room to be able to put them into different situations for them to learn from. And so I want to challenge those who are listening to think about that. What are the spaces that we can bring somebody else into um, to help them to grow in that way and give them that kind of ongoing education? Or what are the scenarios that we can put them in where we can see how they will thrive or react? And how can we help them to see how they can adapt or where they did well and what they can improve on. And I really think that that's an important part of not only leadership, but kind of what we owe to each other, right? In the work
agree.
environment,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So your current role at Tecsys is application services manager. I love I love this question because I want to know, like, what does that involve? What does a typical day look like for you? If there's a typical day in supply chain. I mean, I don't know if that exists or not. But if you could talk to us about what a typical day looks like for you. And I love this question because there's so many different things you can do in supply chain. And so understanding the titles and what goes with that, I think is important to everybody sort of taking a look at where their place is in the industry.
Um, so I'm not aware of a typical day as well that exists in supply chain. But overall, my role as an application service manager at Tecsys is developing resources, working on the Tecsys platform, and aligning strategy with technology. So to further explain, I lead a team that implements Texas platform for healthcare system and complex distribution across North America. And primary, my main goal is building a high performing, resilient, and future ready team members within our supply chain consulting practice through mentoring, coaching, and supporting new professionals or any professional at any level. Um, uh, Also, every day looks a little bit different for me. So I can have an hour where I'm coaching someone through a client presentation. The second few hours can be with a customer where we have a deep discussion on their processes and how we configure the system. It can be related to procurement, order fulfillment, inventory management, can be financials, and then later on in the day, it can be training a customer for a specific area within the platform. So it is very different. And I work very closely, like internally, with project managers, advisors, and all team members from professional and technical services.
Mhm.
But I also work with subject matter experts from the client side to ensure that the solutions we provide and the process designs enable their operations more efficiently. Um, what I the most my favorite part of my job is really when I help the customers personalize the platform to their needs and enable their operations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
So
lot of fun, right?
it is very fast-paced, dynamic, but that's what exactly I love to do.
I love that. Now, you lead large scale digital transformation projects. I want to dive into that a little bit because I'm having so many conversations about this topic. But sentiments and experiences around the idea of transformation can be very different business to business. They can also be very different person to person, professional to professional, leader to leader. Obviously, we need digital transformation, but the debates are really around how, why, when, where. I mean, they're still raging on. What's your perspective on that?
Um, so digital digital transformation, it's not just implementing technology.
Hmm.
It's really about people, processes, and a mindset, and adapting to new systems and workflows. Um, so when people usually start adapting new system and workflows, they often get so overwhelmed, and I witness this in my job all the time. From my perspective, I think that digital transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous improvement. It is a journey. However, I don't see that it is no longer an option right now. So, waiting for a disruption to implement a change can be really risky. So, the organizations that are proactive and stay ahead of the game are the ones that have a competitive edge and keep their operations steady. So my approach when I do the transformation is that sim just simplify it, communicate, and empower people to be a part of this transformation because when people feel they are part of it, they and not just impacted, they cooperate in a better way.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. We're looking at 2026 or being in 2026. We're talking about how digital transformation is something that everybody should be leaning into, right? There's technology that needs to be implemented because otherwise you're going to be left behind. It doesn't really give you that competitive advantage. Do you have any advice for anybody going through one right now or thinking about starting a project?
Um, so So my advice for organizations is always focus on the fundamentals. So focus about your people, focus about refining your processes. You can start by just picking one process that is very time consuming and see how you can improve it.
Mhm.
And then use technology to enhance those things. I think that 2026 will bring us much more intelligent supply chain And we've seen that AI is already transforming the way industries operate. And we're moving from a world where data is driving proactive real-time decisions rather than simply just reacting to problems. So starts with your people, start with a process, and then use technology to enhance it.
Yeah, such great advice. And I think also making sure that you give yourself and your teams the opportunity to have the grace to test things out.
Yeah.
I think that that's really important because not everything is for everybody in every supply chain. And I think, one of the biggest parts of all of this is trying to figure out what that looks like. So you have talked about mentorship. From what I have read, you believe in the power of collaboration, which I love because I always say collaboration is the future of business. You're very much about lifting others up, especially women. So what's your experience of that? Have you benefited from mentorship, empowerment? What does that look like for you in your career? You've already kind of talked about how you do that for others, but if there's anything else that you want to throw in here, let's do that.
Mentorship did have such a huge part of my journey when I first moved to Canada. I was incredibly lucky to have mentors not only on a professional level, but also develop my soft skills.
Mm,
They taught me confidence, communication, um, have better presence. And this really shape how I show up now in my career. Um, those lessons stayed with me, and I always try to pay forward. So
mhm,
at Texas, I try to mentor early career professionals, except women, to help them find their voice and confidence.
mhm.
And I find that there is nothing more rewarding than seeing someone that you coach become leader themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and I think collaboration is very powerful. And when people feel supported and seen and heard, they produce their best work.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And it's actually part of the conversations that I've been having recently about how supply chain and organizations are still a little bit siloed. And I kind of hate to hear that in 2025 going into 2026. I keep thinking like, how are we siloed? How are we not coming together in collaboration? Because the first thing you need for any digital transformation is trust, but it's got to start internally and amongst your teams. If you don't have the trust internally, then you're not going to necessarily trust the systems that you're going to bring in and the data and the solutions that they bring to you. And so I agree with you. I think collaboration is a big part, and kind of like the missing piece, I think, to a lot of success that an organization can see. So love that word. Love that you love that word. Now, you were named as an industry trailblazer in the 2025 Women in Supply Chain Awards. So congratulations on that.
Thank
What
you.
does being a trailblazer mean to you? And why is an award like this so important to you as a woman, but also as an Egyptian living, working, and thriving in North America?
Well, first of all, thank you. And being recognized as a trailblazer is incredibly meaningful to me, and I'm truly, truly honored for this recognition. Um, Honestly, one of the most rewarding parts were the outpouring messages um, that the congratulations, the kind words, but especially Sarah, the young professional woman that came to me and said, "You inspired me. I'm gonna focus on my career, and maybe next year I will apply for the Women in Supply Chain Award."
Yeah.
This to me is everything, and I would be honored to nominate them one day. Um, as a successful Egyptian woman in North America, I'm proud to present a diversity in an industry that is always growing and transforming. And this award, I think, is a reminder that it's not just about the impact you make, it's about the people you lift along the way. So I hope this will encourage more young professional women to believe that no matter what or when or where you start, you can always build something meaningful.
So beautifully said. And I think part of that too is that, and I talk about this with my work in Blended, the Blended podcast, the Blended Pledge, is the fact that representation matters. The more we can see more inclusion in a variety of ways, whether that's on stage, on the for the awards, it really does matter because it showcases people within our community, whatever that looks like, that it's possible, and it's possible for you, but then it's also possible for them, and that's where hope lies. And I think hope is really important, especially these days.
Yeah, agreed.
So, what does the future hold for you? What does that look like?
That's a difficult question. So I'm very motivated to continue growing on a personal level and a professional level. I will continue focusing on developing the next generation of leaders, continue coaching, and especially women in supply chain and any other domain, but this is where most of my network are. I will always keep challenging myself. I think this is part of who I am. And supply chain never stops evolving. So, and that what makes it so energizing. And there is always an opportunity for you to make an impact, inspire others, and keep pushing for the industry growth.
Love that. Love that. And we are so lucky to have you in this
Thank
industry.
you.
Now, I've loved hearing about your journey, your commitment to learning and excellence, your dedication to lifting women up. In your forms for the show, you said when we show up with purpose, resilience, and authenticity, we create ripples of impact that extend far beyond ourselves. Now, that is beautiful, and you really are the perfect example of that in action. So, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story on the show today. Now, did everybody have a guess at today's big question? At the top of the show, I asked you what percentage of the Gartner healthcare supply chain top 25 for 2024 are Tecsys customers? Well, it's a huge 40%. Nermine really is helping to make a big impact across the industry. Now, remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Check out more content from the best and brightest over on letstalksupplychain.com. We've got some incredible guests, innovative strategies, and transformative solutions you cannot afford to miss. Thank you so much for being with me here today, Nermine.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for me, Sarah Barnes Humphrey of Let's Talk Supply Chain.